So, the next story is I'm going to talk about some personal experiences I had at the Stanley Hotel. It's a historically haunted hotel. The story is that Stephen King stayed there on the off season, so his family were the only ones there, and he had a nightmare about his son being chased down the hallway by a hose or something like that. Then he's like, I'm going to write a book about that. I'm not a huge Stephen King fan. I think his short stories are amazing, but his novels are just pretty wandery. They go on and on and on. But so anyways, there's, a lot of ghost hunter shows have gone there, and it's just known locally and nationally and internationally as this haunted location. So at the time, my mother was she worked for the National Guard, helping veterans come when they're coming from Iraq or Afghanistan, or really anywhere, but generally it was coming from the hot zones. So my mom, when she worked for the National Guard, that was her job. So veterans would come back and she would help. She ran these programs to help get them back into the groove of things. So it was a lot of like family retreats and things like that to just kind of reacclimate them to civilian life. They're still soldiers, but you know what I mean? Like now they're back to like having to pay bills and go to the movies and things like that. And they do these big seminars. So one year they were having the seminar at the Stanley Hotel. And I was in the area. My mom said, hey, do you want to go up to the Stanley Hotel? We're going to be there for the weekend. We're going to be running like these workshops, but you can just run around the hotel. I was like, hell yeah, dude. It's pretty dope. So we go to the Stanley Hotel. And the first night, I just decided we were there for like 2 days, 3 nights or whatever. The first night, I was like, you know what? I'm here. It's cold. There's snow everywhere. I hate the snow. And I was like, I'm just going to like chill. I go, tomorrow night, I'll probably like walk around and look for ghosts and stuff like that. But tonight, I'm just going to chill. And so I ended up watching for the very first time Eastbound and Down. And I was laughing so hard. That show's hilarious. Never heard of it before. And I watched like 6 episodes. They're doing like some marathon in Showtime. The next day I get up, I'm just kind of, again, walking around, eating croissants, stuff you do normally at hotels. I went for a walk around the hotel. It's just a very normal place. One thing I've noticed is that it's beautiful. Hotel was built like in 1907. This beautiful, like old school, antique, really rich person hotel. Just hardwood everywhere. It looks like you're walking around a giant mansion. And in the middle of this like turn of the century built hotel, there are these massive, like the size of a baby's head, water mains, like fire. What are those things called? Not necessarily like, what are those fire sprinkler things? You'd be walking through this like $1 million hotel, and right above your head, there were these huge metal pipes running it totally looked like half of it was Trump Tower, and then you look up slightly and you're like in the steerage section of Titanic. And you're like, what? It was weird because it was totally throwing off this vibe. And I'm thinking, they probably just have to have like this world-class sprinkler system for, because it's a fancy hotel. Maybe it's for insurance reasons. I'd never been in a fancy hotel before. I'd been in like, I don't know, Holiday Inn. I always thought Holiday Inn was nice. So the next day I'm just kind of walking around, exploring stuff, but not like super exploring stuff. Like I said, I was eating croissants. And that night I said, you know what? So now it's the second night. I was like, I'm going to like just walk around. And the place was packed because it was winter. So people were up skiing. They had all the National Guard people there. Not all of them, obviously, but a bunch of National Guard people there and their families. So this is when it started to get weird. So the whole thing is based around ghost tours and stuff like that, which is really not what I'd want to hear if I just came back from Iraq. Being here about these tortured souls. They're like, this person died a horrible death and now he's doomed to walk the planet. And you're like, I just watched a Hummer get blown up in front of me like 3 weeks ago. I don't want to hear about this stuff. And there were complaints about that afterwards. People were like, don't ever have another seminar here. All they ever talk about at the hotel, like all the tours are based around like people dying. But anyway, so I go on the ghost tour during the day and they're like, the tour guide's this very attractive young woman and she's like, oh, this is the ballroom where sometimes you'll see like a ghost at 3 a.m. dancing around. And I'm like, and they're like, this is this hallway, and this is the door. This is room 237. This is where Stephen King stayed, or 217 or whatever. This is where Stephen King stayed, and this is from the movie. And everyone's like, ooh. Then we go into this one room, and she's like, this room is haunted because inside this walk-in closet, there's a ghost of a randy old man. And if women walk in there, he'll feel you up. He'll like grab your, he'll like tickle you or grab your butt or whatever. And I'm like, And she goes, any volunteers to go in? And this 13-year-old girl goes, I'll go in. And the tour guide's demeanor totally changes. Before, she's dressed up in like this old school, like colonial costume or 1900s costume, whatever. And she's like been super bright and vibrant. And she's talking about like this creepy pervert ghost in this closet who grabs women. And the little girl goes, I'll go in. And the tour guide's demeanor completely changed. And she goes, you have to be over 18 to enter the closet. So I remember thinking, okay, what? Like, if this is totally fake, why would it matter how old the person was? Because whoever goes in there, it's the power of suggestion. They're going to go in there and they're going to come out and be like, he touched my butt. But if there really is a perverted old man living in that closet, you don't want to send a minor into that room. I remember thinking that totally changed the color of the whole tour. Because before it was like, you want to hear some campfire ghost stories? And then after that it was like, stay away from the men, stay away from the old man with the candy. I was like, what? And I was like, that's a weird thing. You think, maybe you don't want a 13-year-old girl going in there and then coming out and being like, mommy, he touched me. Like, even the power of suggestion works, but I was like, well, that's a weird reaction. And that was just the beginning. So that night, I'm walking around the hotel by myself. And it's probably around 10 o'clock at night. And I wasn't like a big nerd. I didn't have my camera or my infrared scope or anything like that. I might have had I don't think I had a smartphone back then. But, I wasn't like, I'm going to find me some ghosts. I'm going to prove these exist. I just kind of wanted to walk around late at night in this creepy hotel. Because it is admittedly quite creepy. And I'm walking down the hallways and I see, here, talk about taking the boo pill, guys. I see these 4 co-eds sitting, kind of hanging outside their hotel room, kind of chatting it up. And I walk by them, there's some guys. They're like, hey, baby, what's up? Not to me, to the girls. So that would be a totally different story. So I kind of walk around the hotel. I come back maybe 30, 40 minutes later, and they're still out there. And I walk up to them. I'm like, hey, what's up? And they're like, oh, nothing. And they go, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm just kind of exploring the hotel and stuff like that. And of course, we start talking about ghosts, because that's really why people come there. So I just sit down there, and we're kind of just sitting on the floor outside their hotel room. 2 of the girls are kind of coming in and out, and then the other 2 girls are staying out there the whole time. We're just talking and stuff like that, and one of the girls goes, it's weird. Before you showed up, we kept hearing this noise in this door down the way. Like, we can hear the alarm clock going off really loudly. I'm like, well, that's not that weird. And she goes, yeah, but what's weird is that, why isn't anyone acknowledging it? Like, you think if the person in the room was asleep, they'd shut off the alarm. But at the very least, the people in the neighboring rooms should be complaining, because it's really, really loud. And I was like, that's interesting. Yeah, let's go check that out. And they're like, yeah, really? I was like, yeah, let's go. I used to hunt ghosts and stuff like that. So we get up and we go down the hallway. And you can clearly hear this loud-ass the most annoying noise in the world is an alarm clock you can't shut off. And it's very clear when you're standing outside the door. And again, I'm thinking, well, it could just be that the alarm clock's going off. And I'm talking to the girls, and I was like, it could just be the alarm clock's going off, and nobody knows that it's on, and that the walls are fairly thick. At this point, one of the girls kind of leans to the door, and I think she went to test the handle or something like that. And it doesn't open. She lets go of the handle, and we're talking there for a bit more, and then the handle turns on its own. Like someone's trying to get out. So at that point, we realized that either one of two things have happened. There was either somebody in there and they thought someone was turning the knob to get in, or there wasn't someone in there and something was turning the knob to get out. So we kind of like did a Scooby-Doo run back down to where their room was. And I was like, oh my God, that's totally terrifying. But again, I'm thinking, completely understandable. Then we got it in our brain to break into a janitor's closet. It was so bizarre. That's standard Jason stuff. And I remember there was this janitor closet. Oh, the light was on in the janitor closet. That's why. And again, now we're like at midnight. And I go, that's weird. The light's on in the janitor's. I don't know why I thought it was weird. I think I was just saying stuff to impress chicks. But I was like, the janitor's light's on. I wonder if there's something spooky in there. And they go, oh yeah, let's check it out. So we go now we're back on their floor. The whole thing, the doorknob down the way also took place on their floor. And the alarm clock did stop going off after a certain point. But again, alarm clocks, electricity, stuff turns on and off. Doorknobs, maybe when she turned the doorknob and let go, and then we were talking, maybe she tightened it and then undid itself. There's rational explanations for a lot of this, not all of it. And I remember I was thinking, we should break into this janitor's closet. I used to be a real hooligan back in the day. I didn't have a problem with like breaking into stuff. And I remember I want to impress these girls, and I thought, you know what I should do? I should pull out like my credit card and like try to jimmy the door thing. And it's not going to work. It never works because the way that the lock is, the smooth part is on the other side. On your main part, on the outside part, it's like the rectangle, and on the inside, it's the little half moon shaped thing. And I thought, but I'm going to try. It'll be kind of cool. Like to make it look like I'm a burglar or something. That wasn't far from the truth at the time. And I pulled out my credit card, and I remember I stuck it in knowing full well it wouldn't work. And it worked. And I'm like in front of these girls, and I was like, here, I got this. Pulling out my credit card, knowing that I was just going to jiggle it around for a bit and then be like, it must be one of those special locks. I pull my credit card out, I slide it against the lock, and it goes click, click. And I was like, holy shit. Now, maybe that's not paranormal. Maybe that's just me being a pimp. But again, or a badly designed door, but I thought that was really weird. It shouldn't have happened. The janitor's closet was not haunted, by the way. But as the night progressed, you're like, Jason, you're just telling us this random stuff. This is the creepy thing. So I'm sitting there with the girls, and now we're probably around, midnight, 1 o'clock. And I say, the scariest stuff supposedly happens at 3 a.m., the witch's hour. And they're like, ooh, really? Oh, and I asked them, why are you ladies here? It's spring break. That's, okay, yeah, I remember now. It was happening during spring break. But there was snow everywhere. I guess it was in Colorado, so there's always snow everywhere. But I go, so why are you guys here? Like, why aren't you guys, like, on a beach in spring break? Oh, and I should add, they were all really, really hot. I go, why are you guys here and not, like, at a beach somewhere? And they go, oh, we just wanted to go and see a bunch of ghosts. And I'm thinking, I said, that's how horror movies start. Like, four hot girls going together to, like, a purposely haunted location. You know how many horror movies start like that? And they're like, ooh. They didn't make ghost noises, but I mean, because they were hot, and I'm telling them they were hot. But anyways, so we're sitting there, and I said, let's stay up till... I don't know how many people are still listening to this episode, but we're sitting there. And I said, let's stay up until 3 a.m. Now, at this point, two of the girls were like, you know what, we're tired, we're going to go to bed. But the other two girls, and at this point, we're just chatting about all sorts of stuff. Their room was right on the corner, so it was right next to the staircase, one of many staircases in the building. And we're sitting there, and we're talking, and the girl who's sitting closest to the stairs goes, did you hear that? And I see her kind of look over the awning, and she goes, did you hear that? And me and the other girl were like, what did you hear? And she goes, someone was just walking up those stairs, but like they stopped halfway and there's no one down there. And I'm like, what? And the other girl, we kind of look over that ledge and there's nobody down there. It's like 3 or 4 flights of stairs and there's more stairs going up. So maybe about an hour later, we're all sitting there, we're talking, and we all hear someone walking up the stairs. And you could hear like the... going up. And the stairs don't seem to make that much noise when people normally walk on them. but you can hear like the creak of each stair getting closer and closer. And we're like, what was that? And then I think about an hour, it happened again, maybe a half hour later. We hear the, but now it's the flight, like, so there's a flight of stairs, a landing, and then another flight of stairs and a landing, a flight of stairs and a landing. It's on the landing that we should be able, it's on the landing directly below us. So it's like, let's say 10 steps up, landing, then 10 steps up. That second 10 steps up is where we're at. We hear it go, like slowly though. I'm not going to prolong it again. And it goes up to landing and we hear a, very clearly. Like, we're dead silent. We heard the walking earlier from floor to the floor underneath us. And now we're hearing it at our landing, basically. Like, below us. And we're looking, and there's nothing there. We clearly hear someone breathing. And I remember thinking, it had gone in hour-long intervals. So I think it was midnight the first time we heard it at the bottom of the stairs. And then it was 1. And now it was 2, and we heard it on that landing, and I thought, it's happening. I told him, it's happening every hour. So whatever is doing this, it's taking its time. But I said, that means at 3 a.m., it will be where we're at. And I was like, do you guys want to stay up till 3 a.m.? And they're like, hell yeah, dude, we're almost there. And we're sitting and we're talking, and then having a good old time. And sure enough, walking up the stairs, and then we don't hear anything. It's not breathing in front of us. There's no jump scare, no big ghost. And then we're like, okay, we're going to bed. Like, whatever was walking had gotten to our floor was where we would have been. We didn't hear it walking past us. We didn't look in the mirror and it say help me or anything creepy. It was just this weird shared audio experience that we had. And so we're like, okay, that was weird. Again, you don't know what's going to happen. We didn't know if we were all going to get like taken to some hell dimension or something like that. Obviously, it didn't happen. Unless the hell dimension is where your friends forget it's your birthday. However, I said au revoir to the beautiful young women and went back to my room. The next day, though, I was walking around the hotel getting more croissants, and there was a Starbucks in there too. Or no, it wasn't a Starbucks. It was a normal coffee shop, so it sucked. And I was talking to the guy behind the counter, just like a dude working a job. And I said, hey, what is it with all of these big pipes? I go, this is such a nice hotel, but why are these giant water pipes? Like, it totally ruins the vibe. And he looks at me and he goes, happy birthday, Jason. No, I'm just joking. He looks at me and he says, you know how many fires get started in this place? He goes, nobody knows why. He goes, there's fires everywhere in this place. And so we have to have a state-of-the-art fire suppression system to stop it. Everyone, so the Stanley Hotel sits above a town. And I go, do you think it's ghosts causing these fires? And he looks at me and he says, everyone in the town has either been injured or knows someone who's been injured at this hotel. The people who live in town wouldn't care if this entire place burned down someday. Handed me my coffee. I think that's an interesting button on that story because we hear like, ooh, these spooky legends of this place. But if you lived in the shadow of a building that, if it is truly haunted and it's the main source of your economy, you would have people go, hey, I'm going to go get a job at Stanley. Yeah, I finally got my job. And people would be like, don't work there, honey. Don't work there. You know what happened to your uncle? You know what happened to Bruce? You know what happened to Tina? But that's really the only job in town. It almost is like this Shining-esque prison for the people there. They have these mysterious fires and these hauntings and these accidents and these injuries that don't... See, that's one thing. You can sell people on, come stay at our hotel, it's spooky. You can't sell people on, come stay at our hotel. the people who work here get injured very, very often. You wouldn't have that. You wouldn't put that in your brochure. So if people were like working on something, like working on a ladder, and the ladder gets knocked out from underneath them and they fall down and break their arm, they're going to quit because they'll be like, I was the only one in that hallway. Or if a maid's cleaning a room and she turns around and a dresser's on fire, she's going to be like, I'm out of here. You're not going to put that stuff in your brochure. You're going to talk about the spooky ghosts that float around in the ballroom or the room that Stephen King wrote his stories in. But if the guy who worked there, if he, wasn't pulling my leg, and I don't necessarily think he was, because it was such an odd question. I asked him about the water mains and he just was like, oh, this is why. Rather than just being a barista and being like, I don't know. Other than the tour guides and the people being part of the hotel, everyone else, to them, it was just a job. It wasn't this spooky adventure they were on. It was just them showing up to work. So when they're just like, this place is cursed. It's not fun haunted. People get injured here. And the people in town wish this place would just be destroyed. That's different than, wearing a colonial costume, telling people to go into the closet full of the creepy pervert man. I wouldn't go back there. I got that sense of negative energy from that place. I've went there once. I would not spend another night at the Stanley Hotel. That's my personal read on it. I do think that, I think you're very likely to get injured there. And very likely for that world-class fire suppression system to kick in. I don't think it's a fun haunted place, like, say, the Winchester Mystery House. I think it's something much more sinister than that. If you get the opportunity to go, you might want to take it, but, you might want to sleep with your eyes open and not go into your closet. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.